Welcome to the Kai Greene Effect.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Kizzy K with the AKA chilling with my Vlad Uden. We are on Generation Iron's podcast. This is the Kai Greene Effect, and I am Kai Greene, and this is gonna be awesome because we got some great topics to talk about today,
We
right,
do, we
Vlad?
do, man. How you been, man? How's everything in Kai Greene's world? Everything good?
Man, it is moving and grooving as it's supposed to.
Yeah, but I'm excited about this Patreon thing that we launched. Because of the censorship on YouTube, we have to expand on some topics here. And the Patreon gives us an opportunity to, put out episodes that are uncensored, talk about pretty much any topics we want to. So I'm excited about it. I urge everybody to sign on for this.
It
So Kai,
stops us from getting those flags.
exactly. So we're gonna talk about these interesting a lot of athletes, not a lot, but a few prominent athletes from the classic division now moving into men's open, and they're doing very well. Urs just won his first pro show as a men's open competitor. I believe Wesley Vissers made an announcement that he might be going to men's open. Obviously, last year, Chris Bumstead made an appearance in the men's open
Men's
division,
Open,
and
yeah.
he did very well. He got second place. I believe it was in
Yeah.
Europe. Anyway, what do you think about this? Do you think that's going to be and why do you think they're doing this? Do you think the prize money has something to do with it as well?
Well, I'm sure to some degree. Let's not forget that the Open men's bodybuilding is the original Super Bowl of our experience before um, a lot of the new categories um, were developed. I think on one hand, on the amateur level, the newer categories allowed for more people to actually get a chance to participate in the sport. Classic physique, I think, was an addition that maybe, the sport was actually trying to go back to the golden era, trying to recapture, you know, um, an opportunity to look at physique that hadn't been so um, I don't want to say corrupt, but
Hmm.
you know, um, if you saw the earlier Branch Warren physique, before he became, touched with the idea of the mass monster, there was a time when Branch Warren was a middleweight. You know what I mean? As a teenager, was competing as a teenager as a middleweight. And I say this because I remember him winning the teen nationals, but a very different physique than what he evolved into, in the pursuing development of that mass monster thing. I think all of our physiques were, Victor Martinez, earlier in his career. I mean, even though he's always been like a shape king.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the category in itself, I think, was an attempt to go back in the sport, believing that to some degree the mass monster pursuit kind of altered the direction of it almost for some people in the sport would have thought it just wasn't as beautiful.
Hmm.
So, classic physique was, I think, our organization's, attempt to go back and to capture that and to relive and highlight, what an ultimate physique could look like without um, the addition of extreme size. It created an option. Usually a physique, before it becomes a mass monster, you know, starts out just like all of our physiques do. You know what I mean? I think the mass monster idea is something that I think progressively was realized with the direction of the sport and the choices made with how it was judged.
You know what's interesting about that? Do you think that basically the physiques that come into the sport dictate the future of the sport, right? Like if you look back at Lee Haney's era, right? For 8 years, he was a champion. It was a certain direction, right? That the sport was in, And then with Dorian coming in, right, that went into a different direction. That maybe led to the whole mass monster creation, and then that led to the 90s, right, where it was like a bunch of different mass monsters. But if that, let's say, if like a Dorian didn't come in to the picture, right, he didn't become a bodybuilder, for example, then do you think the sport would have stayed in the look of Lee Haney going forward for many years?
I don't think so. I don't think you can blame one man. I don't think you can blame Dorian the for the progressive realization of what the sport evolved into. I think the judging does have a role in it. I think in determining what the long-term look of the sport is going to be. The judging does have an impact on the effect of what
I
the
see what
sport
you're
is going to look like progressively, and to later say it was just Bev or it's just Dorian,
Well, how about
cutting
19?
it for.
How about this? How about 1998 when Ronnie beat Flex? Right.
Mhm.
Everybody thought Flex was going to win. Right. His very symmetrical body. Right. Do you think if the judges would have given it to Flex Wheeler that year, for example, do you think that would have put bodybuilding in a different course? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it would have been more in the. You know what I mean?
It is. I think it's very, very possible. Yeah, absolutely. So who makes that choice? Who says, here I got a great bag of apples. These are apples, and here over here, this is a great bag of bananas. No diddy, no pause. I mean, just saying. Hey, um, I had to throw that in there.
I know. I
Your
know.
boy. I kind of get the grapefruit comments anyway, so I might as well just say I
Right.
like fruit at this time. Um, ha! I got a lot of them. I'll be here all day if you want me to. No, I'm just kidding. But I am saying, yes, I think you made the point. You do that. This is an illustration of exactly what I'm saying. I think that the judging, the judging goes a long way in establishing what the criteria is going to be, and gives messages to the aspiring athletes that are going to bring their package next year and for the years to come. Certainly within the next 5 years. It can take 5 years, I think, for the messages to be secured and for an understanding to mature with what a look of a category is going to be, and should be identified as ideal. You know, but yeah, I think every athlete does his best. I think Dorian certainly did his. I don't think that he by himself could have just determined, long term what the sport was going to be. I think that um, the judges have their direction and they give messages to the athletes. Now, Dorian could have said, "Hey, well, you know what? I'm not going to try to top my best already. I'm not going to come in bigger. I'm not going to come in harder. I'm not going to." He could have just said, "Hey, you know what? That's not the direction that I want to go," which is something that we've seen happen in the history of the sport. There's a lot of women at different times in the sport
Right. Right.
where you
Of
say,
course.
"Hey, I don't want to go up. I don't want to be as." And then you have a lot of times where now even the judging is saying, "Hey, hey, I want you to be 20% less muscle."
Right. Well, what I'm
And
saying
having
is,
just.
if Ronnie, let's say, if Flex would have, because if Ronnie won in 1998, right, and then
Mhm.
that they all started chasing his size, right, so then overall the bodybuilders got him bigger, right, because they were chasing the look. If
I
Flex
think they
would
were
have won,
chasing size before Ronnie. I mean, before Ronnie. I mean, Lee Haney. The great Lee Haney, Jedi Master Lee Haney, when he stepped into the scene. I mean, technically, Lee Haney was not a little bodybuilder
no,
by
of
any
course not,
stretch
of
of the
course not. No, he
imagination.
was huge.
He
Yeah.
represented the top of the food chain, at that time in the sport. Let's not forget Arnold. Um, Even in Arnold's day, Arnold represented, the biggest and the best
Of course.
of what the sport had to offer, even though he was thought of as being aesthetic and symmetrical and those ideas that we say are important in the sport when judging a physique. But he was certainly a mass monster by earlier standards of what
Sure.
that meant to be at
Sure.
that time. You know,
Absolutely.
and Lee Haney was that as well. If you think about like a Brian Buchanan was competing in Lee Haney's era, amazing aesthetics, just amazing artistic value to his physique. Small, even a very small waist, incredible wide cobra cobra lats and just, conditioning, off the charts. However, he wasn't a mass monster to the degree that you could identify Lee Haney to be. I think Lee Haney still outweighed him with the same amount of separation and muscle clarity, and aesthetic quality, but still, maybe 20, 30 pounds, 20 pounds at least more muscle. And that was something impressive. It also was the thing too. If you thought about like, damn, don't get me started. I realize I'm going to go over, and then I'm going to have you talking about me behind my back. So many people are going to talk. They're going to talk. And what are you talking about, Kai? But Rich Gaspari, Rich Gaspari at the time, that he placed second in the Olympia. This dude was like, he showed muscle separation and quality in areas that most people didn't know existed. Somebody like Rich Gaspari comes along and says, "Hey, you know what? I will give you something else to consider. Look at my muscularity." Like, oh, he developed body parts and muscularity in areas that we didn't even know could be judged. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And for a lot of the time, I think in his career, I mean, during the time of his like height of experience in the sport, I don't think they were really looking at glutes and stuff like that. Yeah, even
Right.
the posing suits weren't even tailored yet to even
That's true.
allow
Yeah.
those things to be seen.
Yeah, you're right. What do you think about Keon Pearson? He's from 212. He's a 212 champion multiple times, and he's switching over to men's open as well. Got a lot of people excited. Like some big bodybuilders are actually commenting on it, including Lee Haney, praising that decision.
Hell yeah. I mean, the dude is tremendous and phenomenal. I think at the top of the sport, it wasn't just the pursuit of a mass monster as much as it was, I think it was like the pursuit of like the perfect, the idea of the perfect combination of size, symmetry, and aesthetics. You know, you know, Lee Haney was certainly more than a mass monster. I mean, the dude was aesthetic, and through valuing those things that we saw, he stood head and shoulders above, a physique that would be thought to be lesser, because they didn't have that. So you had the symmetry around, you had the muscularity around, and you had your ability to pose with how you showed this size and shape, um, to your advantage, highlight your strengths, and minimize or hide your weaknesses. So I think they say that the mass monster era kind of happened after Lee Haney, but I think gradually from the beginning, I think that's a natural part of the process of our sports evolution. Bigger, harder, faster. You know, and with Keon, I mean, I think there's an example there of the same. Hey, man, he got to the top of the mountain. You know, did exceedingly well in the category that he was competing in. And then because he recognizes that there's still improvements that he can make with
Right.
overall the development of his physique, in the pursuit of the bigger, stronger, faster, more aesthetically pleasing. Um, yeah, I salute him on his journey. He's doing an amazing job, obviously.
Well, let's see what happens. Yeah, it's interesting to see how he does this year at the Olympia. I want to get your take on something Sam Sulek said a few days ago. He made like a comment about science-based lifting. I don't know if I had to look. I had to look up what that actually means. But science-based lifting, Sam Sulek says,
Mm.
it's a snake oil idea. What do you think about science-based lifting? What is your take on it? Do you ever follow it?
Oh yeah, well, science-based lifting makes perfect sense if you're thinking about the practical explanations of why we do certain exercises and why certain tools working within the atmosphere of physical culture and training and improvement, why it works. So science-based lifting would be how we'd explain muscular hypertrophy and how it works when you start talking about understanding the science behind the conditions inside the cell and how you apply stress and time under tension and all those things. So the science-based training idea is it's important. It's a natural fundamental part of all of our experiences, that for being people that aspire to improve and to develop. Um, and what I believe the thought is suggested by Sam Sulik is that you don't want to be seduced by that alone, that there still has to be room for interpretation, and also the ability to evaluate, your results that are based on experience and practical application and beyond that. There are things that have not been discovered yet. And there are things
Sure.
that for you is always a new thing to encounter. I think Sam Sulik is saying, yo, you got to keep room in the equation when you draw it up,
I remember
to,
I remember filming with Ben Pakulski when he used to compete, and he would work with this lab in a University of Tampa,
Mhm,
and they were super scientific. They were into lifting, and they helped him design his prep actually. So,
mhm,
like for example, instead of doing regular cardio, he was doing sprints. Because the way they figured it out, it optimized the most. Burning of the fat, basically, right? They were doing all
mhm,
types of different lifts, and they would be like, okay, on this level, this is where you stimulate the most muscle.
mhm.
So it was like they came up with this whole program for his prep. It was interesting to see that. I guess that's what people call science-based lifting. Everything was like super. There was explanation for every single thing that he did over there.
That was dope because that Generation Iron, actually, that was the
Yeah,
highlight. That was a highlight
yeah,
within the
yeah,
film. I think that Ben Pakowski, um, in his the segment on him, actually put that as a highlight. That was something that was a big takeaway moment for anyone watching that. And I still think that was dope. And it was one way of approaching it. There are other people though that had nothing like that.
right,
They're
right.
not, but their ability to optimize, their fat burning and stay at the top of the game for themselves, or ascend, to the higher heights that they were trying to meet.
It was like drug contrast, working hard versus working smart, right? That was the
Yeah.
contrast. Like Branch Warren was like the hard worker or whatever, right? And obviously everybody was working hard, don't get me wrong. But
And
it was like,
everybody would say when they saw Branch Warren's form with certain things, oh, what is that?
right,
Let's
right,
just
right.
criticize it and break it down. Meanwhile, this dude was muscularly dense
It worked
beyond
for him.
belief.
It worked for him, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And he was, and what I want to say is that where the practical explanation stops, you know, is where I believe the creativity, the inventiveness, and the imagination begins. I think um, there's more than one way to kind of arrive at the opportunity for discovery. Um, um, I think it's a combination of all of it if you're really trying to do this thing in the way that makes the most sense. There's room, you have to have room when you write up your equation, that at least leaves an X for the things that you don't know or haven't experienced yet. Practical explanation is a value.
right.
But then there's also, the things that you don't know yet, the new lessons that you are about to learn, and that you can only learn through the experience of going through it. And sometimes if you're limited, hey, nope, only 32.2 grams of protein can be assimilated every 2.5 hours. That's it. That's all it is. It's biblical, and that's what I'm going to stand by. And then you can live a little longer, do a little more, and find out that, oh, wait a minute, there are um, some things that can be done that can change that can change
Exactly,
that greatly.
exactly.
In fact, there's a bunch of variables that you might not allow yourself to consider if you just accepted that one practical idea as your end all be all room of thought.
Kai, next topic is a Patreon special. So this is, I guess, a controversial topic here. This is based on a lot of comments that we're getting. People want you to explain what are diuretics and why are they so dangerous. All right, great. So now we have a lightning round of questions. We have 3 questions, Kai. This is where you hear the question from the loyal listener and you give us an answer at a lightning speed. All right. You ready for that?
Ah, you already laughing. Wait a minute. Is that a loaded
All right.
question?
First question from Kevin Roll 0982. So this one is actually interesting. Kai, were you ever a fan of a bodybuilder and then you met him in person and stopped being a fan because how they carry themselves? It's a good question, Kai, and I can't wait to hear the answer for that one.
Yes.
Don't make
absolutely.
it politically correct, man.
Don't make it politically correct. All right, I'm gonna just say it then. Chris Coleman. Man, okay. So one time I was standing. So one time I was standing at a bodybuilding show. I went to this bodybuilding show to compete just because I knew of the people that were going to be guest posing there. Kevin LeBron was guest posing at this show in Connecticut. I went there as a teenager to compete. I competed, and I had a girlfriend at the time that was like, she was a little older than me. And, kind of rolling with this older chick and feeling myself. I was feeling myself as I was at the time. A younger guy competing at the bodybuilding show, got the physique going on. We're in her car, but I'm still feeling like a developing young man. And just then, I get online because I see there was a table put up, and at the table there was Chris Cormier sitting there with like photos to posters or whatever to sign and sell. And I remember this at this time, this was the real deal, Chris Cormier. It was like, oh, I had never been at a bodybuilding show to that date and gotten a chance to meet him. So I stood online just like the other 13 or 14 people in front of me. This was a long line. I was one of the few to get in there as quickly as I did. 14 people ahead of me. The whole time I'm like excited, kind of nervous. My girlfriend's standing next to me, babe, hey, babe. She's noticing different things. And like, babe, hey, babe. It's all right. It's all good, whatever. I can't wait to get a chance to shake Chris Coleman's hand and then, obviously buy a poster or something. Now, I already had pictures of the guy on my wall. So it's not like I really needed to buy a poster. And I realized for most fans and enthusiasts of the sport, they don't really need to buy it either, but they do it because they're supporting you and they want to have that exchange.
Right.
It's an awesome thing to do that you value very, very much for reasons that I would now take years for me to learn how to articulate. But anyway, as I look up, I am now the next person in line. And just as the other person in front of me walks away and I get a chance to extend my hand to say, what's up to Chris Cormier, brother, my girlfriend's voice interrupts me. Hi, Chris. Oh, Chris, how you doing? And what happens next is the lesson that I learned.
Did he steal your girl? Is that what happened? Chris stole your girl?
Yo, he just what he did. It was worse than that because Chris didn't give a damn about my girl, right? He just did what normal people would do. Oh, hey, girl, how you doing? She's like, Chris, hi. And she continues to go on. She doesn't stop. And before I knew it, she done moved my hand out the way, reached herself forward, and made her way around the table to giving Chris Coleman a hug and a smooch and oh, Chris, stop playing, Chris. And it was like, oh, wait. Because now, trembling that was going on in the bottom of my stomach that almost felt like, yo, man, this is not a good thing.
No.
And before I play myself in front of all these people, including in front of Chris Comer, I think I'm just going to just kind of like just freeze for a second, collect myself. My ego was now in his back pocket, so I had to kindly like reach over and collect it back, take my girlfriend by the hand as we proceed to make our way outside, to a place more quiet so we can kind of reconvene, maybe have a conversation or two about how this situation is just absolutely out of bounds. So now I don't want to sound like a dude that was controlling or anything like that, but Chris Coleman, he did what anybody would do, I would imagine. Hey, he acknowledged her. She was giving him this energy. He gave her back the same energy. At the time, though, this ex-girlfriend of mine was like, she had been a pro herself. You know, she was
Oh,
above me, you know, to some degree. I wanted to be a pro one day, but as I said, I was still like, you know, a teenager,
so
you know,
you
looking to
broke up with
kind
her
of,
immediately after that?
huh?
Did you break up with her immediately after this?
I mean, I don't even know where this chick is today. And
Mm.
if she does hear this, I'm sure, I'm sure she'd have a good chuckle. I might get a call or a DM if anything on Instagram. But yeah, it was Chris Cormier showed me that day though what to do or what not to do
Uh-huh.
in a situation like that.
It's
Because
it's a
going forward, I understood that, man, I was a fan. I was an enthusiast of the sport. I was an enthusiast of watching his career. And I stood online because I wanted to buy a poster from him. I wanted to exchange positively, you know, with him. I wanted to shake his hand. I wanted to encourage him. I wanted to tell him that I noticed him and maybe, just maybe, you know, um, hear a kind word of exchange from him, you know, in encouraging my career. Now, many years have passed since then, and I've, you know, since become a grown adult man myself, even a pro to some degree, and have some now moments of experience like that to my credit, you know. And I understand a lot more today
right.
what that was and what that must have been for him. I will say this, that, you know, people are people, you know, people are human. Chris
Hmm.
Comer is human. And you know, as I could sit today critically of him in that moment, I'm sure there can be a fan or enthusiast somewhere that might have caught me at a bad moment, you know,
Hmm.
and might have taken something out of context.
It's so funny when
And
I ask you that question. I thought you were gonna say Lou Ferrigno. Have you heard the stories about Lou
oh
Ferrigno?
nah. Lou Ferrigno's always been a gentleman in front of
Good,
me. Always
because
been
a
a
lot of
gentleman.
people have stories about him being not nice to them. So I thought maybe you also have a Lou Ferrigno story.
Nah, I mean, nah. Always a gentleman. Always
Good,
a gentleman. There
good,
was
good.
one time I stood on stage with Arnold Schwarzenegger though, and I thought that I was going to get like top honors. I wanted to shake his hand. Homeboy was like, "Yeah, you weren't my choice to win this
I
show
remember that.
games, but
I remember that. Yeah. By the way, last episode you said that somebody wrote a slanderous article about you using synthol. You said it was a
oh,
bodybuilder who you looked up to, and then people in the comments were guessing who that was. You want me to tell you who people guessed the name?
who did guess?
They
Who did
said
they
it was
guess?
Sean Ray. Is it true?
Ah, man, I will never say.
Really? I mean, they
I
can.
will never
There's
say.
people out there that do their history, man. They probably know the article. They probably know who wrote it. I'm just.
That is crazy impressive. If are you sure they did that? They said they did that?
Yeah, people on Facebook, everybody's saying it's Sean Ray. Are you a
Wow.
fan of Sean Ray?
Wow. Wow. I gotta say this. I gotta say this. That behind the scenes, there are things that have happened in my life, in my career, where it's so funny. You can have one of these moments where something happens and it's like, that's it. This person sucks. And then they'll be the same person that donated a kidney to your kid or donated a kidney to you. They
Yeah,
did
yeah.
something that just absolutely, you know, that you could never thank them enough for. And yeah,
But it was Sean
that
Ray because you would have said it wasn't Sean Ray if it wasn't. Come on, Kai. Come on, man. All right, next question. You ready?
next
All
question.
right, Kai. When you go to the restaurant, do you ask them to customize your order for you? Like, for example, no butter from the steak, or to remove seed oils, etc. Also, do you ever go to fast food restaurants?
Oh wow. So yes, I do go to fast food restaurants every once in a while. Sometimes special occasions, we're traveling, get, you know, we'll be eating with a lot of people. Let's get something to eat. Um, yes, no butter on my steak. I don't want nobody's butter on my steak, you know. I saw that smile, dude. I'm just gonna say no Diddy. Just I don't know. I'm gonna
Oh my
say no Diddy
God.
just because. No Diddy. Um, yeah, no butter on my steak. And I avoid different kinds of seed oils. Yeah, I'm just no butter. Even on my toast. I like my toast with no butter.
Good.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as going to say, hey, well, I want this, I want you to make me this specialized. Eh, I'm not really intricate like that. I've seen where, it can become a little much, and if I'm in a position in my life and where my diet is that extreme and intense, I make the effort to prepare a lot better, to keep that control of
Right.
of what I'm eating, if I care enough, to be in my own hand and not someone else's.
So you go to fast food. What's your favorite fast food restaurant?
Well, I mean, we've gone to Outback quite often.
Outback is not tip. It's not fast. Is it fast food? You put that in the fast food category? I guess it is, but
I
it's a
would put
chain. It's a
that in the
chain.
fast food category.
Really?
I'm gonna have steak. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a burger dude. It's funny because when in the throes of, like, the height of my career, I would have needed very little convincing by my coach to do a refeed or anything with using burgers and stuff. However, yeah, as I get a little older and stuff, I am so unenthused about eating burgers. I'd much rather have the steak or some salmon, grilled salmon. Um, yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, this is it for the lightning round. I urge everybody to submit their questions in the comments below, and we'll pick some for Kai to answer.
That's what's up. I like that. I appreciate this. You know what, Vlad? Always gives me a good smile on my face when I get a chance to see you on our days when we film like this. This is
Yeah, man. Me too. Shout out to Chris Cormier and your ex-girlfriend, man.
ah yo. I'm not gonna tell you what I think, but yeah, man, yeah. It was very apparent then. It was just more than I wanted to know, more than I wanted to see, more than I had to be exposed to.
Oh
Yeah,
man. Well,
yeah.
till next time, Kai.
Until next time. All right, y'all. You've been listening to us. This is the Kai Greene Effect. We are over and done. We want to encourage you to keep on keeping on. A lot of people are going through their struggles, whatever they are, at the sound of my voice. If you are, yo, man, it's worth it. So
See
keep
you.
it. Keep on working.
All right.
Until next time, let's keep it positive. Let's keep encouraging each other. Peace.